Hi, Kim Morrison, health and lifestyle educator, aromatherapist and founder of 28. I'm really excited. As part of our health and lifestyle education program, one of our beautiful graduates, the gorgeous Ashley Jubinville, who graduated with us a couple of years ago, has gone on to create a remarkable business all around food and having a healthy, beautiful pantry. So welcome, Ashley. Look, could you just give us a little bit about your background and how you came to being here with us today?
Thank you, Kim. I'm delighted to be here, especially having finished the HLE program and having been connected with you guys on other yoga levels in the past. So yes, it's been a very interesting journey. Where to begin? There's been engineering in the mix, working as a structural engineer for quite a few years. I've now, channeled everything I've learned from the HLE program, everything from my yoga teachings, working on organic farms in the past, always coming back to a love of food and a very sincere interest in researching health from a very natural perspective, from how do we eat better to be healthy. And I guess I didn't really realize how much that was just such an interest of mine. I thought everyone was like that. I thought everyone ate like this or everyone cooked like that. And it wasn't until everything sort of came together and one day the bowl literally dropped and I just went, oh my goodness, there's a need for this. I cannot believe what people are experiencing nowadays and the struggles they're having with their kids and, just the organization lack in their life, their pantry, how they shop. So what's come out of it is kitchen coaching, and the whole idea is to help people eat healthier and therefore have a happier, more harmonious household with the skills and the confidence that comes out of that.
It's a really interesting point, because whenever I ask people, do you think you eat healthy? A lot of people would like to say yes, but they know deep down there could be some changes. The hardest thing of all is knowing where to start. So my first question to you is, do you come into the home? And if you do, I don't know if everybody would want me to look at their pantry. So how do we overcome that fear of having someone like you look at my pantry, yet I know I need help?
Yes, that is such an awesome question, and I do experience a bit of that. Even if they don't say it, you can see it in their eyes. So yes, it is very much an open book when people, have me into their house to have a one-on-one chat about really what's not working. And it can feel a little bit uncomfortable for people to say, look, I do have some troubles, and the ultimate thing there is there's no judgment. No, so many people are in this struggle street boat. They're leading busy lifestyles, not really knowing where to put their focus, information overload. So it's just a matter of simplifying it so that there's a solution that they can start off with straight away. And I don't like to leave any house unless there's at least a steps sort of plan to get them out of the current rut or slight issues that they're having at the moment. So yes, it can be very revealing, but my goodness, the benefit in that. Because you're right, I think that there's so many people that feel like they're eating quite healthy, and I hear it very often. People saying that, I'm not doing that bad. We eat fairly well, and for the most part, that's largely true. It's more now a question of the complete bombardment that we're getting from marketing, from products on the market, from food companies. I think that there's a lot more that people need to know about the foods that they think are healthy, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's not as healthy as what we think. And even if it takes 15 to 20 years sometimes for us to notice the symptoms as a result of those foods we've been eating, my goodness, it's not necessarily pretty when that day comes that you notice these symptoms. So I really like to get down to the core root of things for people in the beginning so we can see how to listen to the body at an earliest stage possible to know whether or not these foods are reacting to us.
I think the really key thing on this is it is a journey. It's not an overnight, 1 minute you're eating this way, tomorrow you're eating another way. What I did is we put out a whole lot of questions to our beautiful followers, and I'd really like to share with you some of these questions, and perhaps you can help us really find our way on our own personal journey. And would you mind if I asked you a couple of questions from our gorgeous followers?
Please, yes.
So one of the top questions that I always hear is, What do I do with fussy eaters?
Yes, the age-old classic. Very valid question, and I will address how much that's happening nowadays. I cannot believe what I'm hearing from parents and what they're having to sort of cope with every night when it comes to dinner, or the lunchbox is coming home full. I had a lady the other day that the only thing her 11-year-old son has eaten for the last sort of 5 to 6 years has been mashed potatoes.
Wow.
As far as a veggie goes. So, and she's not unlike many that I'm hearing now. So it's a very real concern. There's certainly no reason to think you're at fault or guilty of anything. There's just some new learnings and some new knowledge to come back to why this is happening. So I really like to peel back the layers and figure out, why is this child struggling with these foods? What is actually the underlying cause of picky eating? There can be quite a few causes. So again, this is where it's nice to be able to work one-on-one with the person, and without knowing the specific child we're speaking about at the moment, the first key things that I would look for is the child reacting to a food? You might not be able to notice it straight off, but if there's any form of trigger happening in the body, it's going to prevent the body from wanting to even try a lot of these foods, okay? Because there's a response happening in the body. From a psychological perspective, sometimes that can come from a control battle, or simply from being in a society nowadays where instant gratification is the norm. We have infinite choice, and there's a lot of confusion, I guess, for parents to know what to give their kids as an option. So if the child becomes to know that if they scream loud enough, or if they fuss loud enough or long enough, they'll break mom down, and eventually she'll give in and give them the squeezy yogurt, or they'll give them, the banana after dinner instead of eating their dinner. So I guess in order to give some quick strategies straight off, one of the things I would definitely recommend is to just have a little think as a mother, as a father, as the food preparer. Your time is very valuable, and this is where the self-care element really comes into it. When you've spent a lot of time creating a healthy meal, and you've put that in front of the family, and there's an issue, they don't want to eat it, what I generally recommend, and it can feel a little hard at the beginning, so I'd like to give you strategies on how to do this, but that is what's for dinner. That is what you lovingly prepared. This is what is for dinner. And if they're not willing to eat it, it's okay, that's all right, but there's nothing else before bed. And it sounds hard, but kids will not starve themselves. They will not. And if that happens, think of it as an opportunity. You might have to get up 10-15 minutes earlier the next morning to make an awesome spread of healthy breakfast. But because they're even hungrier in the morning, they'll be more likely to try some more of these foods in the morning, some healthier breakfast foods. So it can seem frustrating, but it's actually an opportunity. That's one little strategy anyways to think about.
I think too, as mums and dads, we're so tired, we're so full on, we're so detached almost from the beautiful ritual of preparing food, that you had a key element to me just then was actually lovingly prepare food again, rather than, oh, for God's sake, I've got to get this made. I think as a mum, that's been one of my greatest learnings, and I've seen such a shift with the people you've been working with. Just that little insight, getting back into the kitchen and feeling proud and happy. It might only be scrambled eggs on toast, and maybe it's a paleo toast, or maybe it's a beautiful almond bread that you've prepared, but the beautiful thing about that is when it's lovingly created, it has a different energy. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%, Kim, exactly. And I really get sad when I see people come to say to me, I generally ask people, okay, so the height of your hand is going to tell me how much you love cooking. And sometimes I get this, like they don't love it anymore. And that is sad. It's something that we have to do every day. Generally we have to do it 3 times a day. And why can't we learn how to love it? There are so many ways to learn how to love it. It's just new habits, new ways of thinking, and some couple new skills, so that you're not in a stressful space when it comes to cooking.
We are made up of 50 trillion cells, and every one of those cells deserve and absolutely need good nourishment. And when I think about how extraordinary this body is, and what I demand of it, and how much I use her, I think part of my relationship to food is looking at it as fuel and ensuring that each one of those 50 trillion cells are revered for the job that they do every single moment of every single day. We don't even have to think about what most of them are doing. They just do it innately. So isn't that a privilege in itself? And by cooking a beautiful meal, even if it is scrambled eggs on almond toast, to me is one of the nicest ways I can say thank you for what I demand of you. And to teach my children that is, to me, one of the greatest gifts that you give. Is you're not complicated when it comes to teaching this. Your whole approach, I found, is very simple, but very, very caring. And ultimately, if there's one shift that I have learned from you, is falling in love with the care of what it takes to be the provider of beautiful food in the house. I think that is one of the greatest privileges as a mum, a wife, a partner, a daughter, a friend, etc. And I think it's really important. I think one of the other questions, I'm laughing here, looking here, so what's for dinner? I get asked this all the time, even with my kids, and I prepare beautiful meals, I think. But the question is, and you know what's even funnier, is when I say to them, if you could have any meal you wanted, what would you want tonight? Or what would you like for dinner? I don't know. It's almost like giving them a choice makes it harder. Is that true or fair?
Yes, no, I see what you mean there, and it is the age-old question, isn't it? What is for dinner? And I think it stresses people out a lot to always have to come up with new ideas and come up with things that in their mind they're probably going, oh, the kids aren't going to like that, or oh, is Johnny going to like this and Susie not, and am I going to be preparing 5 different versions? So I will just touch on that. A little bit of planning goes a long way. Okay, I'm talking 15 minutes, maybe on a Saturday, maybe a Friday night, just so that you can get set up for the week ahead. And that might just be that you're going to go to the markets on Sunday morning and get some fresh fruits and veggies. You may not know what you're going to do with them yet, but you're going to have these fresh fruits and veggies on hand, so they're there, they're going to get used, even if Google comes into that. So a little bit of planning. The other thing would be to think about even just a couple pieces of meals that you can prepare maybe in a, say, a 2-hour window on the weekend, or if it's through the week, that's okay too. But say a 2-hour window of food prep in advance. And again, even if it's just making a batch of hummus and preparing, washing a bunch of veggies, stir-fry cut. Maybe it's making a batch of the almond bread that I can show you how to do, and I think the record is 3 minutes and 30 seconds of my almond bread, or my, healthy, I guess, paleo bread.
Yeah.
So the key there is then when it comes to the week and you go to ask the question, what's for dinner, you know in your head that you've already got that hummus in the fridge. Okay, and I just picked up a bunch of, fresh grains. So why don't we do a big loaded salad with a bit of, like a side of chicken, a bunch of hummus on top, and then round it out with whatever bits we can find in our well-stocked pantry, for example.
Nice.
So just knowing that little bit.
On that note about the markets, one of the other questions that is asked all the time is, it's so expensive to eat healthy. What's your thoughts on that?
I would have to challenge that belief fairly strongly. So when we decided that we were going to go 100% organic, or as much as we could to that, it became that sort of fear going, because the perception is that it's going to cost more. What we found is that there's quite a few strategies to not have that happen. The one thing is, a lot of these foods we call convenience foods and packaged foods and things that are quick and easy to grab, they're actually going to cost us a lot more. And for a couple of reasons. One is because they're generally nutrient poor. So even if you have your bowl of Wheat Bix with milk in the morning, you're probably going to be hungry in half an hour to an hour later. So you're going to be constantly having to eat more and more. That's one factor. The other one is, it seems to be inexpensive now, but when we think of the long-term costs of the effects that this food has on our body, we are guaranteed to be paying for that later in other ways, whether it's a stressful life, household behavior problems up and down, not sleeping well, not eliminating well, that results in illness later. There's a whole perspective there that I think people don't take into account, is the true cost of food. The other thing is, the larger you buy. So when you buy in bulk, you can get a much better price. So if your pantry is stocked and set up for that, for example, having some larger glass jars that are well sealing, you can be buying for 3-4 kilos of almonds at the same time, knowing that you're going to go through them in the next sort of 3 to 4 months. save a lot more money than buying piddly bits here and there.
Yes.
And you'll spend less time in the grocery stores as well, which is this money savings if your time is saved there, in my opinion, as well. So no, it doesn't have to cost more.
And the other thing I love, Ashley, is by going to the markets, you actually get to meet the people that create the food, which teaches your children where our foods come from. Would you agree?
Definitely. Getting the kids involved. If you've got picky eaters, that's the number one thing I recommend, is just get them excited about it. Get them excited about seeing where these foods come from, even if the next step is to the markets. Even if they don't get right back to the garden, at least go to the markets. Introduce them to the farmer that you can find. Get them to touch, feel, use all their senses, and get really excited about this food. It does come from you, though. If you're sitting there going, oh, I hate broccoli, do you think your child's going to enjoy broccoli?
It's so true.
So yeah, get them excited, take them to the markets, get out in the air, get out for the experience, maybe have a little healthy treat at the end as a part of an experience.
Ours is, they come to the markets, me with my beautiful flash trolley, and ours is, we have a beautiful green smoothie at the end of the markets, or Jacob gets his organic, this roll bun thing with all sorts of things that I would never make at home, but that's one way of getting him to come to the markets. I wanted to ask you, one of the questions here is, I have friends that love cooking, but I just can't seem to enjoy it. What am I doing wrong?
Yes, awesome. So there's generally a few things that add up over time. So I don't know if you've heard the reference or the analogy saying that the wife broke up or divorced the husband because of the way he squeezed the toothpaste.
Yes.
Meaning that it's the little things that added up over time that resulted in that last straw that broke the camel's back, and they're done. So when I hear that people don't like cooking, it's great to have a look at their kitchen or have a look at their pantry and see what they're working with. And often it can be as simple as working with too small of bowls. So when you're stirring your dish or your mixture, your muffin mix, you're kind of carefully having to make sure you don't spill it over the edges, and it's taking longer. You don't realize that's a stress, but that combined with a whole bunch of other things like, too small of a cutting board means you're always spilling off the edges, and you're having to keep you can't be free and just cook and enjoy. And so there's a few little things that...
Do you help with that? Would you help us with the utensils right through to the food, through to what sort of processes or juices, or would you support us with that?
Definitely. We cover equipment to make your life easier, and not more expensive necessarily, easier to make your life save time. We cover the skills that you need, whether it's, knife skills. A lot of people have never touched a sharp knife before, let alone know how to cut with it. So things like that, new equipment, new foods, how to actually combine them in an efficient way. So coming back to the structural engineering background, I'm very much about problem solving, very much about efficiency, always asking myself, how can we do this better? And that, I guess, has flown on definitely into the teachings. And even if it means, how do I set up my pantry differently so that it's more accessible and more enjoyable?
Your pantries, oh my gosh, what's your website?
thekitchencoach.com.au.
So go to thekitchencoach.com.au and have a look at some of the before and after photos. I swear to you, if you're anything like me, you don't even realize a pantry is possible to look that beautiful. But to have someone like you help us label it and work out which raw or whole foods I need in there based on what I love to eat or what I'm looking forward to creating is also some of the things that I've noticed a lot of feedback has been how easy you made it, how beautiful it looked. And let's face it, if it's not beautiful, we won't use it. So particularly that, 80% of household decisions are based on the female. So I always feel like if we believe it's beautiful and attractive, we tend to interact with it a lot more. And your jars and your, you've got to have a look. One other question, here we go. My pantry always seems to be messy and hard to find what I need in it. How do I fix it? Well, we've kind of touched on it, but tell us something that you make really simple with people creating the pantry of their dreams.
Awesome, yes. I go through a lot of pantries, and as we're going through it with people, if we do the full day sort of pantry flip exercise, they're digging through, we're emptying it out, they're finding 5 packages of coconut or 3 packages of almonds. They didn't realize they had it because it just gets buried at the back and it's hard to find. So one of the easy ways to fix that is to put everything in a clear glass jar. And when I say everything, it's definitely swapping out a lot of the other packaged foods that we're used to stocking into more whole foods. Whole foods meaning nuts, seeds, dried fruits, flours, grains, pastas, that kind of thing. And once those are in jars, there's so many benefits. They then hold the space for that food. So you can see just by quickly opening the doors when you're out of almonds, because there's the space that holds the almonds, rather than a messy stack of bags and you have to kind of go through it every time you go shopping. You're not going to do that. So it holds the space. You know what you've got, you know what you need easily for shopping. They're easier to move around in the pantry as well to get what you need. And also the major side effect of that, which we didn't even anticipate in the beginning, is that when you open the doors and kids come home from school, they go, "Mommy, what's that? Can I try some of that?"
Yes.
And it's magical. They're asking you for dried cranberries. They're asking you for Brazil nuts. They're asking to have gluten-free pasta for dinner.
Yes.
Whereas before that never could have happened.
Well, a lot of our things are still in the pack, or we don't really attribute to how important it is to see it. And I think the other little tip for me is when I'm looking in my pantry and I see something getting low, so that my brain doesn't think next time I go to the markets I must remember almonds, I have a little white magnetic whiteboard on my fridge, and I'll put almonds up there. So then I've got my list of 5 or 10 things that I need to get at the markets next week, because my fault is I'll go to the markets, forgotten what I needed to replace, and buy a whole lot of stuff I may not have needed, and forgotten the one thing I did need, which was, coconut flakes or something. So that was my little tip that I learned with you, is making sure that there's somewhere to put it on the list so that it's out of the brain and ready for the markets on the weekend. So I really appreciate that. A couple more questions just before we finish up. I struggle with breakfast. What can you suggest?
Oh, the age-old breakfast question. I love it. Yes. Okay. The first thing to say on that is we have this association with what are breakfast foods. I would challenge that to just say food is food.
Yes.
If you're providing whole foods, beautiful foods, does it matter what we have for breakfast? If your child wants miso soup with chicken in it for breakfast because you had it the night before or something, what's wrong with that? Let's just warm it up for 2 seconds on the stovetop and give them some miso soup. So just broadening your perspective of what are breakfast foods. If I had to give some specific ideas, in terms of the quick and easy, thinking of the busy household, one of the fastest things you can do to get enough nutrition for your morning to last you through to lunch without a snack would be a smoothie. And learning how to load that smoothie with the core nutrition that keeps you going for a long time. I'm not talking just fruit, I'm talking definitely focusing as much as you can on learning how to make a green smoothie delicious.
Yes.
And there are many kids I've worked with now that are open to having green smoothies. We may have had to start out putting it in a container they couldn't see it in first, but it all depends on the child and the mother and the parents and how they present that too. So we go through all that as well in the teachings. But definitely getting those core bits of nutrition into you as early in the morning as you can, not feeling like you have to rely on the cereals or the toasts because that's a breakfast food.
I think one of the greatest things that I've adapted over time, especially having you involved with everything that we teach through the Health and Lifestyle Educator program, is nutrition is one of the most important parts that we can ever attribute to self-care. It's not something that we're just going to eat on the run. Or what's your thoughts around eating at the table versus in front of television versus eating while you're walking? I mean, how do you value that time of eating the fuel we've now prepared?
Definitely, and you're right, it's a very real thing in our world today. I'm hearing so many people, and particularly the husbands, they're just eating at work whenever they get a spare second to shove something in, and now that's been their reason for relying on the muesli bars, the packaged muesli bars, the packaged yogurt squeezy tubes. Like, I've got adults having those because they're forced to not take time for lunch. And I think it's really sad because when we don't pay attention to the food that we're eating, our digestion is not going to work correctly. We're communicating something very different to our body when we're in a stressed state or when we're in a busy state or we're rushing about. We're going to eat more than we probably need to eat. And we're probably not going to eat on a very good routine as well. So the body's not necessarily going to have the digestive juices ready for eating if you're eating sporadically. So I don't think it's a very good idea to be rushing and to be even standing when you eat. Even if it means you sit down, like it might take longer to prepare the meal, but when we eat it, we can generally finish a meal pretty quickly. So really all you've got to carve out is, say, 10 minutes at lunch to just sit down, be present with your meal. Know that your focus and your loving attention into that food is literally going to become the cells in your body. And if you've sent stress at them unintentionally, it's still going to become stress in your body. And it's just energy nowadays, where science is starting to catch up with that, to be able to prove that to people from a scientific perspective.
Yes.
But it doesn't take much for you to learn how that directly affects you with your own experience.
You know, one of the things that we practice in our family is little grace. Even if it's just taking a moment and thanking me for cooking the meal, or thanking my daughter for putting the salad together, or just giving thanks to the animals and the plants that have sacrificed their lives in order for us to enjoy fulfillment. And going back, it might sound a bit woo-woo, but to me it's very much about being connected to the much bigger picture. And you don't get that with nutritionalized foods, where packaged food. Whereas when I go out, I had a girlfriend whose dad had his veggie garden, and he would come running in with the veggies from the garden and go, quick, 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 let's sit down, let's give thanks, because the goodness is right here, right now. He was so adamant that the highest amount of nutrition was right as we'd harvested the food, which I have to say, when you look at the value and nutrition in foods, he's not wrong. So eating apples that have been sitting in a cooler for 3 months in their transportation process, as opposed to eating them in season from the markets that weekend, even that, I guess, vibrational energy or that intention must sit better with the stress levels, I would imagine, with our bodies.
Definitely. I do want to touch on the fact that the body, it seems really complicated, and it does do a lot in a day. What I want to simplify for people is how the body interprets that food when it comes in. So when it sees a food molecule, it looks at it and goes, right, okay, what can I do with that? Well, this component of it I can use to build these cells, and this one I can use for that, and this is useful in this way. Everything else, it goes, well, since I can't use that, now I've got to deal with it. Now I've got to get rid of it, or store it, or it's like I can't work with it, so what is that? It's toxic, basically. The body sees it no different as a toxin. If it can't use it to build your body, then it's got to get rid of it. And I think people tend to think that there's this in-between, there's this safe filler ground where, it can't be that bad for me, or, yeah, I'll just have a little bit of that. But it's this thinking of this respect in the body and realizing that you're wasting a lot of resources eating things that the body doesn't recognize. So when it comes to eating, a piece of white bread compared to an apple even, for example, the amount of decoding the body has to do to peel back this piece of white bread that's been through, not only the chemical growing processes, the milling, the harvesting, the storing, the chemicals that gets all along the way, turned into a flour, turned into a bread, added more additives. By the time it decodes and finds out that maybe it was kind of wheat molecule at the beginning, and I mean wheat is another story in itself which we won't get into, but by the time it does that, you've wasted so much energy that could have been used for beautiful growth, or restoring the body, or helping you rather than draining.
That is such a beautiful way of looking at it. And I think if we can teach our children how food works on those levels, even that in itself gives them a different relationship with food growing up. Just very quickly on that note, what is your thoughts around a lot of food eating issues, with young people, or perhaps we've had food issues all our life. We might have been told when we were 15 we were fat, even though we weren't. We've carried that feeling, or that guilt around food. Or do you have any tips around what that could look like about creating a new association to the health of food?
Definitely. It comes from that internal respect. When you start to respect yourself, that respect will pour out into the food you eat, and then what you choose to put in your body. And I do want to mention that I have had parents come to me saying they've had their 7-year-old daughters or 8-year-old daughters come to them and ask them, "Mommy, am I fat?" So this is starting to be a very real issue, and we're starting to see these signs of unhealthy food relationships at a very young age. And the easiest way to not have that happen is to keep an open dialogue with your kids, with your children at the earliest possible age about food, for them to see you get excited about healthy food, not hearing one of the parents say, oh, that's that healthy stuff, isn't it? Or so just thinking about how, I mean, the kids hear everything, whether we know they've heard it or not, it goes in. So just thinking about how we are talking with them about food and just getting excited about it as much as we can, letting them have that dialogue, that openness with you about food, and ask them to communicate how they felt after they ate that. So that's a big thing. When they can understand within their own body that food had that effect on me, your life will be a lot more easy as a parent, getting them to eat healthier food, if they can have that association and feeling. And that just comes from you having that open dialogue.
Yes. One of the other things that can occur when you go on this journey is you become an evangelist and you want everyone else to eat the way you do now that you've found this utopic way of eating. So what's your advice when you see the light? What do we do with it?
Yes, okay, that's a good point. Let yourself be the shining example. You get healthy first. It's the same as what they say on an airline. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help anyone else put theirs on. So you lead the way. You just be that shining example through your radiant health, through your improvement that everyone else will inevitably see. And they can see it quickly. Even in sort of the 8-week program that I work with people on, I've had people, friends of the person doing the program, comment on their skin in the first 3 weeks. So people do see this, and we just have to lead by example. No preaching is needed.
Yeah, and when they're ready to hear it, they'll ask rather than you telling them.
Exactly.
On that note, what is your 8-week program? Tell us a little bit about it.
All right, Kim, great. Yeah, that's awesome. So the key there is to take on an intimate group, so sort of a maximum sort of 6 people at one time, and that group then forms the friendship, basically. There's so many beautiful things that come out of that. What we do in the 8-week program is there's kind of 2 layers. One is a cleanse program, so helping people. Sometimes I'm learning people have never cleansed their body intentionally, ever. So helping them learn how to remove certain foods from the diet so that they can evaluate how that food actually affects them. Because if they're eating that food every single day and have been their entire life, that's now their definition of normal. How they feel every day is their definition of normal. And they maybe don't know how much better they could feel if they cleansed certain aspects. So there's a cleanse part in that, and that's fully guided. I give meal plans. We talk about the strategies on how to get organized for that. And then the major other component is physically cooking a lot of the recipes together. The key difference there is the way in which I like to do recipes. So whether this is the crazy efficient engineer in me or not, I don't know. I've been told this. But I don't want to be just teaching people how to make a perfect Thai green curry. It's more about the skills. So rather than a recipe, I'm giving a lot more formula-based cooking, so that when you have your one piece of paper, there's actually between 10 and 100 different possibilities there. And the key there is the knowledge that when you go to make a meal, you're not having to rush to the shops and waste 2 hours of your day because you're missing the ingredient that Johnny loves in his spaghetti bolognese, for example. So we're teaching, I guess, families how to not need to stress about things, how to enjoy the cooking more, how to use the tools that'll support them, how to discover new foods that they might absolutely love, get more variety into the diet so your body has the opportunity to get maybe some of the missing nutrients that it's not getting. It's quite comprehensive.
Oh, it's beautiful. What about people that can't be close to you or can't get to you? Is there an online option?
As of the moment, not just yet. It's coming.
Yes.
It's coming, so stay posted. Definitely, if you're on my newsletter, you'll be the first to hear about that when it comes.
Tell us, is that the Kitchen Coach or kitchencoach.com.au? What is it again?
Yes, thekitchencoach.com.au.
Thekitchencoach.com.au. So Ashley, you know, really ultimately when we're talking about everything that you do, it calls back to people's why. It's not just a case of having a clean pantry. It's not just a case of eating better. Tell me why you do this work.
Wow, what a great question, Kim. And one that I have to summarize in a short amount of time. Why do I do it? It's been me from the start, and I fought it for so long that when I finally realized that this is how I can have an impact on the world, everything started flowing. when I see the kids get excited about a green bean that's just come off of their garden, their new garden, I almost get teary. So it's seeing people's lives improve, seeing their happiness go up, seeing the harmony in the home improve, seeing their behavior even out and level out so that you can have a real conversation with these kids. I hear these things from parents now, and it's just so satisfying that, you know, we're having an impact in some sort of way. And why do I do it? Why do I do it every day? Because I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. It's so easy to love, you know. Seeing the results is really where it comes from, and knowing that we can help people love real food and discover that it's not as hard as they think it is.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I can tell you this, if there was anybody ever to come into your home and to help you on this journey that is really personal when we think about it, I cannot think of somebody better than beautiful Ashley Jubinville. So thank you for coming, but don't think you're going just yet. I want to ask you your top 3 self-care tips. What would they be?
Oh, top 3. It'd be hard to keep it to 3. All right, well, the first one has to be caring about what you put into your mouth. Not just thinking of food as a filler, and having more respect for your body. Respect for this beautiful vehicle that we get to loan for a period of time, and knowing that the healthy food will make the ultimate difference in your longevity and how much you get out of life, how much you enjoy it. So having the respect enough to take the time for that meal, or to take the time to find those proper ingredients, and maybe take the time to have the new learnings so that you can enjoy it. So respecting the food you put in your mouth. The next one will be respecting what we actually put on the body. So we're seeing so many cases of toxicity now in the bodies, whether it's heavy metals, whether it's phthalates, whether it's any of these things that we're being bombarded with from all angles. One of the things we can control is what we put all over our body. And I think people underestimate how quickly something that we lather on our skin will go into the bloodstream and will affect our whole physiology. So one of the biggest switches for me was when I got rid of the chemical perfumes and I found essential oils, thankfully through you. And it's the body boost, it's the daily ritual of choosing my beautiful oils that I feel like smelling that day for uplifting me in whatever reason I want, and using them as my always changeable, always new and fresh for me mood of the day. And basically enjoying that process of putting them all over this body. And I think the nicest part that you bring through that body boost process is that it's all about respecting the body while you do it. And if you don't already love the beautiful body that you're in, it's a lot easier to have that appreciation when you take those few seconds of a morning to put the essential oils on. You're not only getting them then through the aromatherapy and through breathing them in, but you're also getting it literally absorbing into the bloodstream. That has had a major impact on me, so I have to thank you for that one.
Thank you.
A third one, oh boy, that one would probably be to make sure that we don't underestimate the power of taking time out for ourselves. I see so many mothers nowadays that are in self-sacrifice mode. And yes, it's done with beautiful, good intentions, that you want the best for your family, you want the best, you just want to give, 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 give. But ultimately, if you don't take time for yourself to refill your own bucket, to restore your own energy and your own peace of mind, then you're not going to be able to give forever to your family and to those you love. And I've seen the unfortunate results of that in my personal life, where the self-sacrifice went so far that then there was a crash, there was a break. And it's not worth it. So yes, you can still love your family. As a matter of fact, you can love them even more if you teach them to have that respect for themselves, because they see you doing it. They see mom taking her hour of a night to have a bath, or to go for a walk in the morning before heading off to school while dad looks after lunches. For example, something like that. Whatever it is for you, it's going to be different for everyone. Don't sacrifice your personal care time.
That's beautiful. Well, if you haven't had enough of Ashley right now, which I'm assuming you will be feeling like you want to know more, make sure you go to thekitchencoach.com.au and please click on the link below for her next available speaking engagement. Ashley speaks all over the country and she may not be able to necessarily come into your home right here, right now, but with her online coaching and her ability to be so available, then do not think that this is not possible for you. So make sure you click on the link below and please go to her website. And if you do have any more interest in things like the Health and Lifestyle Educator program or 28, then of course the word 20, the number 8.com. I look forward to joining with you again very, very soon. In the meantime, take care, be kind.